YouTube, YouTube, YouTube test 1, 2, 3.
Okay, welcome everyone. We will call to order our regular meeting of council. Thanks everyone. We're going to call to order our regular meeting of council. And before we start, I'd like to acknowledge and recognize that we work, live, and play in the city of Port Alberni, which is situated on the unceded territories of the Sechot and Hoopachassett First Nations. Council, we do have an agenda in front of us. Are there any late items from councillors today? Councillor Solda.
Madam Mayor, could we add the Racket Club, just an update on their front of their building and what they're doing? And because I thought they were supposed to be completed by now, so I'm just, for the public, thank you.
Yeah, let's add that under unfinished business, D1. Okay, any other items from council? Seeing none, and late items from our corporate officer.
Yes, thank you, Madam Mayor. There's 4 items of correspondence received in relation to item, L3, the temporary use permit for 3rd Avenue. There's an item from CMUDG and O Matsai dated September 2nd, item from Dog Mountain Brewery dated September 5th, an item from S Sturgeon dated October 7th, and an item from Frogworks dated September 7th as well.
Thank you. Would somebody like to move approval of our agenda with the late items? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. Any comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to adoption of minutes. We have minutes from the special and regular meetings of council on August 11th, 2025.
Move to adopt.
Moved to adopt by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any comments on the minutes? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. We have no delegation, so on to unfinished business. Racquetball Club. Councillor Solda, go ahead.
I'm not sure what I wanted to talk about on the Racquetball Club after all this time. It's been a while, so I'm just going to pass and let it go.
But you just asked that.
Oh, the racquetball. Sorry, I'm on something else on my screen here. Sorry. It's a blonde moment. It's my blonde moment, not necessarily everybody else's. So my face is burning red right now, and I want to bring up what's happening. And I thought they would be finished by now. They've still got the tarps or the tar paper up, and that's ridiculous. It should be done, and I know they have a certain amount of time to have it done, I think. So maybe we can just get an update.
Thank you. And I threw you by putting it under unfinished business, not new business at the end of the agenda, because I feel like this is unfinished and not a new item. So, Director of Development Services at the back.
So councillors, to mayor and council, so a development permit had been previously issued for the exterior of the racquetball club. The work had begun, the work ceased. That permit, so essentially they have ceased work. The permit is now expired, so they would have to reapply to continue. And that's the status of it at this stage.
So do we let it stay like that, or do we have any authority to say something? I'm not sure. It's ridiculous that it's half finished and half not, and still in that state.
And maybe to add to that, does it meet our current bylaws in terms of a construction site in the manner that it currently stands?
I think what we would have to look at is, does it meet the property maintenance standard bylaw for commercial buildings? And we haven't had to the best of my knowledge, we haven't had a bylaw complaint on it, so we probably haven't done that investigation. So that would be a mechanism that potentially could be looked at.
And it's not the only building in the city that has some issues, but I mean, this is on one of our busy corridors. And so basically, we do it by complaint, or can council do anything?
If council wishes to direct staff to take a look at that and our various bylaws, that would be for council to potentially direct staff to do.
Madam Mayor, do I need to make a notice of motion, or can I just make the motion? I would like staff to take a look at our bylaws regarding the Racket Club facade.
Is there a seconder? Seconded by Councillor Mealy. Discussion? Councillor Mealy.
No, thank you. I just want to so we're just directing staff to look into the Courthouse Racket Club and to see if there's any issues against the bylaw. Just want to make sure we're on the right page, that's all.
And, I have no problem with action. If they're against our bylaw, obviously there's going to be action, just to be clear, just to make sure.
Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I noted in the agenda, there's a report from Manager Mary Claire with regards to nuisance buildings. I'm wondering if this would fall under that and if it might be properly, or not properly, if it might be addressed in that report, and whether or not the nuisance building working group would be one to take it on in any event, irrespective of a specific direction by council.
Thank you. I'm not sure it would meet if we haven't had bylaw complaints, I'm not sure it would meet the requirements of the nuisance group. But I think if we direct it generally to staff, then they can do a brief review and let us know if there are concerns. The answer may be that there are not. But I think that given how many times this has been asked about in public council meetings and the current status of it, I think it's well worth our while to just ask staff to give us a high-level overview and let us know if there are any glaring areas where it is outside of our current bylaws. Okay. Any other comments? Okay. Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you, Councillor Solda. We'll move on to staff reports. Item number 1 is the Fire Department Quarterly Report.
Thank you very much, Madam Mayor. So before you is our Q2 quarterly report. So this is from the period of April 1st to June 30th. As you can see, the call volume for the fire department has continued to increase. So this table below is just looking at Q2 in various years. And so we've seen a 6% increase in overall call volume over that period of time. Certainly, concerningly, we've seen a 92% increase in structure fires, where last year we were at 13 for Q2, and this year at 25. 2 of those were mutual aid, meaning that there was responses that Port Alberni made into the regional district, but the remaining 23 were inside of the city. We've started breaking out the MVIs that are in the city versus outside of the city. So inside the city, we did see a 8% reduction in motor vehicle incidents, whereas outside of the city, we've seen a 14% increase in motor vehicle incidents. And medical first responders continue to escalate. So we've seen a 16% increase in medical first responder responses. I did promise you, and I do have the numbers, forgive me, I didn't put it into the report, for the orange delay calls that we had, you'll remember back when Director Elzinga with BCEHS came and we decided to no longer respond to orange delay calls. So in Q1, there were 11 orange delay calls that we did not respond to as a result of that change in level of service. And in Q2, we had 20 orange delay calls that we did not respond to. So as an overall number, of course, it's not a huge number relative to the 515 medical first responder calls that we did respond to. What's not captured here in that 20 is how long we would have been on scene. And so these came as incidents where there was a built-in delay of at least 15 minutes or longer from BCHS, and sometimes those delays extend to the 1 hour mark, and in rare occasions beyond that. So it does certainly keep the Port Alberni Fire Department available to respond to a variety of other calls, including that 92% increase in structure fires. We did experience a few personnel changes due to injuries affecting the availability of some of the firefighters for their regular duties. So we have continued to utilize some people in a relief role in order to, for one, keep overtime costs low, but for two, just making sure that we don't burn out our crews and that we have a greater pool of personnel to pull in from when we're dealing with crew callbacks and all calls and events such as structure fires or larger wildfire events. Under fire prevention, the Fire Safe program, we've been just wrapping that up very recently. So we've been able to attend a variety of homes within the city of Port Alberni, also on Sachot and Hupetcheset. And as a reminder, these are homes that have been deemed by Stats Canada and the Office of the Fire Commissioner to be at a higher risk of injury or death as a result of structure fires. We've received quite a lot of positive feedback as a result of that program. Moving on to the Fire Smart Grant, of course, we've had a very active wildfire season in the region. Unfortunately, the grant that we've submitted to UBCM in the province has not yet been approved. And so we haven't been able to move forward with some of those Fire Smart initiatives, such as instances where we might go to somebody's home and do a assessment to determine what changes could be made in order to make their household more resilient to wildfire. We look forward to doing that at the time that we do get that grant approval from UBCM and the province. Obviously, with a large volume of structure fires comes a large volume of investigations for our single Chief Fire Prevention Officer. They've been busy doing that, as well as the Fire Smart program. And now that the Fire Safe program, now that the Fire Safe program is wrapping up, we're refocusing back onto business inspections to ensure compliance for multifamily residential as well as businesses within the city. Communications continues to be a strong suit of Port Alberni Fire Department. We've now increased our following on Facebook to about 12,520. We did have a tsunami assessment that happened a couple months ago, as you probably remember. During that event, our post reached 1.8 million individuals, which is quite a astounding reach for the Port Alberni Fire Department. We continue to see through the analytics that videos get substantially more views than pictures. Pictures get more than just text. And all of that drives more eyes onto our page so that when there is something like a tsunami assessment happening, we already have those eyes that are looking at our page. We posted 82 times, that should say in Q2, and we continue to fulfill various interviews through the newspaper, TV, and other media agencies. Linkage to the corporate strategic plan, as always, where we find ourselves in that strategic priority 5, which is fostering a complete community, safe, healthy, and inclusive. This is completed by the rapid response of on-duty crew to a range of incidents from medical first responder to MVIs, wildfires, and structure fires. This is also accomplished with fire inspections conducted by the Chief Fire Prevention Officer, the duty crew, and through our Fire Smart and Fire Safe programs. If you look to the budget, overall, we're tracking really well. We're tracking on budget, essentially. We're at 51% at the end of Q2. And as you'll see, the fire department service charges have not all come into the end of Q2. So we are looking good overall there. So in summary, Q2 has been the busiest Q2 on record for Port Alberni Fire Department. This follows Q1, which was the busiest Q1 on record for Port Alberni Fire Department. Q1, we did more than double the number of structure fires in Q1 than we did the year before. Q2, we're just shy of that again. The firefighters that were brought in as relief personnel have been essential in order to maintain operations. And I think I'll pause there and take any questions.
Thank you very much. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Chief Owens, I'm wondering, can you attribute the large increase in structure fires to any one or two things, or why is there such a huge increase, I'm wondering, all of a sudden? Because it's been relatively flat the last few years.
Yeah, it's a great question, and I wish I had a better answer. We really have had a great variety of different causations for the structure fires in the community. Everything from electrical to accidental, and certainly we have had some suspicious incidents that we've passed on to the RCMP. But there's no real one item that's really standing out for us at this time.
Thank you. Other comments? Okay. Just one quick question. Do we have a sense of the type of orange calls? That I think that was one of the other things, and appreciate knowing the numbers. I do think that 31 calls probably is underrepresenting the savings that did occur. As a result of those being more timely calls quite often. But do we have a sense of the type of calls that we did not go to as a result of that? Because I think there's more to it than just number of calls and time kind of saved. If you have any information on that, and if not, something that we can look at in the future.
Yeah, the information that was provided to me by North Island 911 simply just showed just the data that there was an orange delay call that happened at this time. This was the address, but doesn't actually go into what the nature of the incident was. Certainly, I can follow up with North Island 911 and find out if that information can be made available to us, and I'll report back on the next report.
Thank you. I would appreciate that. I do think that there's a lot of value in us looking at our fire department's time as a very important resource and managing it as best we can. I also think that there's a community component still that I want to make sure we're being mindful of as we do save time. I think ultimately people in our community may be left at home without medical care, and I think we should see what information we can get on that as well, and so that we can make sure that when we do reevaluate this, at the end of a year having the change underway, that we can look at it in a as much of a full context as possible. So I appreciate the starting point of information. It's very helpful. Okay, and with that, thank you very much for your report today and for all the work that your group is doing. Would somebody like to move move receipt of the quarterly report? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 2, we have the Nuisance Abatement Working Group Quarterly Report.
Thank you, Mayor and Council. I'm pleased to present our quarterly report for the Nuisance Abatement Working Group. We have 2 active files that I'm reporting on this today, or that we are reporting on today. 5170 Argyle Street and 3044 4th Avenue. So the report for 5170 Argyle Street is the building property has been demolished. There are outstanding fees and fines. The fees will be put onto the property taxes, and so the total amount is $753,000. And then the second one is 3044 4th Avenue. We are currently working with that property owner between the various departments, including fire. They've recently applied to have the property shored up in order to have a proper fire inspection done inside the property. There's current outstanding fines for $36,000, approximately, just over. And that's all that I have to report on today. Happy to entertain any questions.
Thank you very much. Questions from council? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'm just reading through the criteria of what is required to become one of your active files. Now, there is an apartment building on 3rd Avenue that seems to be quite active, but they're not included in any of your active files. So are they sort of in the, brought to your attention, or sort of in the background, or what is the status of that file? I'm sure you know which one I mean.
Thank you for that question, and through the chair. There are other properties that fall under monitoring and inactive files, and they would fall, that particular building that you're talking about is on a regular monitoring. Properties can move up and down depending on the status of where they are. And when you mentioned the earlier property that you were inquiring about, we'll put that on to for discussion at the Nuisance Abatement Working Group, which meets on the second Wednesday of the month, which will be coming up this week.
Excellent, thank you. Councillor Solda.
Just a quick question. Is there on buildings that have graffiti all over, are we still monitoring it and suggesting, hey, are we still giving the paint if they wanted to take the graffiti off? Are we still contacting the owners of these particular buildings and letting them know what they can do?
Thank you for the question. Again, through the chair, yes. The answer is yes, and we are continuing to monitor and offer the paint for properties that have been graffitied. It's a continual ongoing issue. Whether the property owners themselves take the proactive approach of painting it, we then, depending on the property, will then follow up with them. And there's, we try to do those kind of projects in a seasonal time. And so fall being our less busy time for property maintenance as properties move along in the fall, then graffiti gets added on. So it will be added on for the fall projects.
Thank you. And could you just maybe clarify at a high level, because there is an amount showing for the Port Pub of $750,000, recognizing that that is not all funds that we've spent, but a combination of the funds that we've spent and the fines. Are you able to, I know there was $65,000 in fines listed, but could you give us a bit of an idea, if you have it, of how that breaks down?
How it breaks down? It's approximately, and I'm going by my quarterly report from last time, I want to say that it's approximately, I'm making a guess, I think it's around 63,000, and the remainder is for the demolition, the safety, the security, etc. I would look to our finance director to make sure that I'm good on that guess.
Thank you. I think that was approximately correct from what I remember from the last one, but just wanted to get that clarified. Just it's a high number, right? So recognizing that some of it is fines and not direct costs spent, but still a lot. Any other comments or questions? Okay. Would somebody like to move receipt of the report? By Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you very much. All right, we have no bylaws today. Correspondence for action. We have one item, and that is a letter dated September 3rd, 2025, from the Sechot First Nation requesting access to city streets for National Day of Truth and Reconciliation. Councillor Dame, would you like to read that motion?
Certainly, Madam Mayor. Sorry, I didn't have my page flipped yet. I move that council authorize the Sechot First Nation access to city streets on Tuesday, September 30th, 2025 from 10 a.m. to approximately 12 p.m., starting from the Sechot Matmaz Gymnasium 5,000 Mission Road, to Alberni District Secondary School, 4,000 Rogers Street, subject to the notification of emergency services and BC Transit, consultation with all affected businesses and residents, provision of a traffic safety plan completed by a certified professional, including qualified traffic control personnel as required, provision of standard liability insurance in the amount of $5 million minimum, review by event organizers of the report of the Study Commission of Inquiry into Community Event Safety dated June 26, 2025.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Comments? Councillor Haggard and then Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. After last year's National Day for Truth and Conciliation, I did hear afterwards that they might have needed a little bit of help because it is a big event to put on. So I was wondering if it may be more meaningful, instead of having council members just walk, if we would offer our assistance where it's passing out bags or whatever they might need support for. So maybe if you could put out the offer, and be more than willing to donate my time that day.
Thank you very much. Great comment. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just to clarify, because the motion is from Matmaz to ADSS, but the letter states to the Alberni Athletic Hall. So I just want to make sure that we're on this right page.
Yeah, through the chair, it is to the athletic hall.
Sorry, and I apologize. So if I may, then because the motion is directly to Alberni District Secondary School, and the arena's in the way and the parking lot. So I would just want to make sure that we're on the same page, that this can be allowed and we're having the right motion. That's it.
Absolutely. Thank you. Yeah, I think we could make a friendly amendment to go to the further one. Just to be, yeah, for sure. Okay, I think everyone's in agreement on that. Athletic hall. Okay, and any other comments? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. And proclamations. The first, oh, sorry. Oh, yes, sorry, I thought we read it all as once. Go ahead.
Apologies, I probably could have, but the second motion is the council authorize the expenditure of community investment program funding to support Sashat First Nation with event support, to include tent rentals in the amount of $630 and provision of traffic control services up to $5,000 for the annual National Day of Truth and Reconciliation Walk.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Dame, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any discussion? Okay, seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. All right, proclamations. Item number 1, we have a letter dated August 6th, 2025 for the week of October 5th to 11th, 2025 to be proclaimed as Fire Prevention Week in the city of Port Alberni. Councillor Haggard, would you like to read this one?
Thank you, Madam. Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd like to move that council, on behalf of the Port Alberni Fire Department, proclaim the week of October 5th to 11th, 2025 as Fire Prevention Week in Port Alberni.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Haggard, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any discussion? Seeing none, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And item number 2, Port Alberni Association for Community Living. We have a letter dated August 8th, 2025, requesting the month of October 2025 be proclaimed as Community Inclusion Month in the city of Port Alberni. Councillor Solda, would you like to read this one?
Madam Mayor, I move that the council, on behalf of the Port Alberni Association for the Community Living, proclaim the month of October 2025 as Community Inclusion Month in Port Alberni.
Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to correspondence for information. I will go to our corporate officer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So we have an item from the Office of the Ombudsperson regarding the quarterly reports. We have a number of UBCM resolutions for Council's consideration in advance of the annual convention from the Village of Lions Bay and the City of Prince George. And lastly, a letter from the Conservative Caucus just providing some official opposition UBCM meeting opportunities.
Thank you. Any items councillors would like to speak to? Seeing none, motion to receive. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And reports from in camera, back to you.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. We have that council release for public consumption notice of a license of occupation agreement between the City of Port Alberni and the Alberni Valley Drag Racing Association for installation of fencing on the SOMAS lands to include advertising revenue accruing to AVDRA for a term of 1 year. And that council release for public consumption the execution of a license of occupation agreement between the City of Port Alberni and the Alberni Valley Bulldogs for a 10-year term to install and maintain a signage feature on the exterior of the Alberni Valley Multiplex. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And council's reports. Any items councillors would like to speak to? Councillor Haggard.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I did mention this in my report, but I just would like to give a shout out to the coaches and players from the Bulldogs organization for putting on a very well organized and very well run hockey camp for the youth in our community. And my grandsons can't wait to come back and do it again next year. Thank you.
Absolutely. Any other items? Okay, seeing none, would somebody like to move receipt of council reports? Moved by Councillor Solda, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Seeing no comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And on to new business, item number 1, the SETI Clutha Haven Marina Uplands Project. Mike.
Yeah, thank you. And through the chair, our economic development officer is taking some well-deserved time off for the next little bit, so I'll speak to this and answer any questions that council has. However, what has happened down on site, we've completed the project down on Clutha Haven to a point where we could occupy, but what we noticed is the accessibility would be tougher to get to the cans. A long-term solution for that is actually using a concrete surface to access cans and underneath the trellis that is down on site. So we are looking to create that hard surface so it's accessible for everybody, including anything that is on wheels or people that are impaired in movement in some way. With our economic development officer being very good at grant writing, he has received lots of grants this year. He has room in his current consulting budget, so he'd like to transfer $20,000 of that amount of funding for the several items that need to be complete to have that up and running for next summer. And with that, I can answer any questions.
Thank you. Any questions or comments from members of council? Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just through you to Mr. Fox, just looking at the proposed motion here. So we would be taking $20,000 out of economic development, putting it towards the transfer to reserve for the capital works, and then the other $20,000 would be grant funded. I just want to make sure we're clarified.
Madam Mayor, so with the changes to the financial plan, what we're doing is we're moving money from operations, so the general fund operations to capital. So that's just the transfer to the capital reserve. And then from the capital reserve to the capital project. So that's clear in the financial plan. That's what's going on.
Thank you. Any other questions? Okay. Councillor Patola, would you like to read the motion?
Madam Mayor, I move that council amend the City of Port Alberni 2025-2029 financial plan bylaw number 5123-2025 to reallocate up to $20,000 in funding from Economic Development Consulting Services to the CDI Clutha Haven Marina Uplands Project as follows. I, line 26235, Economic Development, reduce $20,000. II, line 28211, transfer to reserve, capital works, increase $20,000. III, capital plan 2025, project 25072, Clutha Haven Marine food truck, grant funded, increase $20,000.
Moved by Councillor Patola, seconded by Councillor Mealy. Any discussion? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried. Any opposed? None opposed. Thank you. And on to item number 2, Josephine Sanitary Force Main Replacement Project.
Good afternoon, Council. Thank you for your time. I'm here today to seek approval for early capital project for the 2026 financial plan, and this is for the Josephine Sanitary Force Main. Quick background behind this, if I could just ask the corporate officer to scroll up one figure, please. So the Josephine Sanitary Force Main is from our Josephine pump station located at the intersection of Josephine and River Road and transports collected raw wastewater, pumps it under the river over to our lagoon wastewater treatment facility. The pipeline that the sewer is transported through was constructed in 1970, 1971. And if I can remind Council, in 2021, the Argyle Force Main experienced a catastrophic failure and had some raw sewage leaking into the Somas River. Fortunately, with that situation, we were able to bypass and redirect flow through other means to prevent the leak from propagating further. The Josephine pump station and the line are the same vintage, the same construction, and therefore we're quite concerned and want to get this replaced before the same situation happens again. With the particular setup with our pumping, there's no potential for redundancy or redirecting the flow for this pump station, so the criticality is quite high with it. We have begun the detailed design. The intent would be to go for tender before the end of the year into early next year. I'm also seeking an additional $64,000 this year for some additional geotechnical consulting required to complete that detailed design. The majority of the installation of this pipeline, as you'll see in the figures, under the Somas River, so it's a long directional drill from the pump station all the way across towards the wastewater plant, and then a short duration of traditional trench and excavation. You will see multiple options under the funding options, but the recommended funding model has $5,063,000 from the sewer reserve, $1 million from the Growing Communities Fund, and $1 million from the Canada Community Building Fund. Happy to answer any questions Council may have on either the scope or the funding options. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate this being brought forward so we don't end up in a similar position to, or a worse position that we did with the last project. I'm wondering on, and this is a very simplistic question, I'm sure it doesn't go like this, but I recall the 2021 Force Main project, I think was like budgeted at 3 million and ended up being 4 million or something like that, but it was in the range of 4 million. This one is significantly more. Is that as a result of inflation, or is this a more complex project, longer distance, that type of thing?
Through the chair, thank you for the question. With this particular project, the scope is slightly larger. There's an additional component of not just the directional drilling, but there's a whole other section of pipe once we get it across the river, has to be then connected to the wastewater plant. In addition, we're at a Class B estimate at the moment, and the hope is to have the final cost of this project be reduced from what we're presenting. But at this time, with the current risk, with both the design and construction methodologies, this is what we're presenting for value.
Thank you very much. Comments, questions? Councillor Solda.
Just a question, project complete date, do you have, I know we haven't even started, but what I'm looking at is you're gonna cross River Road, right? So I'm wondering if that's gonna tie in with what's gonna happen next year in the future, right? So could we tie them in together? Because if the traffic's gonna be already going through, do it all at once. So I'm just kind of curious.
Through the chair, thank you for the question, Councillor Solda. The scope of this project would involve directionally drilling from Josephine. We would not impact traffic along River Road, so this should not have any direct correlation to anything happening on Highway 4 next year. As far as schedule goes, the intent would be to begin construction in spring of next year, hence the early request for tender purposes.
Perfect, I'm glad to hear it's not going to tie up River Road.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? Councillor Meatley.
Sorry, so one small question just because of where it's at through you to Mr. McDonald. There is a small access to the river, public access to the river there. Will that be impacted at any point, or will you have to close that at any point for the people who want to access the river?
Through the chair, thank you for the questions. My understanding at this time, it should not impact that, but we can certainly review that when we get to an awarded phase.
Great. Councillor Verbrugge, would you like to read this motion?
I got it.
I'd like to make a motion that council amend the City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Bylaw number 5123, 2025 by allocating $64,000 from the Sewer Infrastructure Reserve for additional geotechnical consulting to be completed in 2025 related to the Josephine Sanitary Force Main Replacement Project.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Any additional comments? Seeing none on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. And if you want to continue with the next one.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I move that the council amend the City of Port Alberni 2025 to 2029 Financial Plan Bylaw number 5123, 2025, and provide early approval for staff to proceed with the 2026 capital plan, Josephine Sanitary Force Main Replacement Project in the amount of $7,063,000, utilizing funding as follows. One, $5,063,000 from the Sewer Infrastructure Reserve. Two, $1 million from the Growing Community Funds. Three, $1 million from the Canada Community Building Fund.
Thank you. Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Solda. Seeing no final comments on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thank you. And item number 3, thank you very much, Jim. Item number 3, we're on to temporary use permit for 3130 3rd Avenue. And Council, I did just want to note that we do have at least one member of the public here who would like to speak to this application, which our process, I think, formally is supposed to allow, but we don't have it written on our agenda. So when it comes to that point, I will just ask Council for approval to invite any members of the public up who would like to speak to the application. And I will turn it over to our Manager of Planning.
Thank you, Madam Mayor and Council. For consideration today is temporary use permit 2503 at 3130 3rd Avenue, also known as the Bread of Life Center. So the Salvation Army has applied for a temporary use permit, which would allow them to continue operating an emergency shelter at the Bread of Life for another 3 years. The new permit will also allow an emergency warming center to open during cold weather events, and those would be cold weather emergency events. And these shelter operations would continue to be supported by BC Housing. In 2022, Council approved a temporary use permit that allowed the emergency shelter, but this permit expired on September 1st. Normally, a temporary use permit can be renewed for another 3 years, but in this case, a new permit is required because they are looking to add that warming center to their operations. The proposed temporary use permit would expire in 2028, though Council could approve a permit for a shorter term if they wished. 3 years is the maximum, but there is no minimum. If the shelter is expected to continue beyond 2028, the property would need to be rezoned. So in 2028, we would expect to receive an application to rezone the property because temporary uses have a 6-year limit. Administration mailed 224 letters to surrounding property owners, to all the owners and occupants of that land, and 4 letters were received in response. All 4 of those letters were in opposition, and you received those as late additions to the agenda at the beginning of the meeting. These letters were from business owners in the vicinity of 3rd Avenue and Argyle Street and the Bread of Life Center, and they expressed concerns over public safety and nuisance in the immediate area. Staff reviewed this application for a temporary use permit with the Community Safety and Social Development Department, and they did suggest that the Good Neighbor Agreement that currently exists with the Salvation Army be updated with language to reduce camping near the Bread of Life Center from people who are receiving services. Community Safety also recommended working with CMHA to approach them about possibly having the clean team operating 7 days a week in the neighborhood to deal with some of those issues of cleanliness. And Council's options for this TUP, I've got 3 options here for you. You can approve the temporary use permit with conditions, and in this case, issuance of the permit would be withheld until the agreements with BC Housing are finalized and until an updated Good Neighbor Agreement can be finalized with the city. Or Council could deny the temporary use permit, which would close the existing emergency shelter. Council could also direct staff to provide more information, and administration is recommending approval of temporary use permit 2503 with conditions. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So Council, I'm gonna, if it's okay with Council, I'm thinking we'll receive we've already received the late correspondence. Do we need to receive it formally? No, okay, so it's already been added to the agenda. We do have the late correspondence, if anyone wants to speak to it. And then we do have at least one member of the public who'd like to speak. The applicant is here, may want to speak, and another member of the public. Why don't we do that and then ask questions, if that works for everyone? I'm seeing agreement in general. I'm going to take that as full agreement. Okay, Keith, if you'd like to come to the microphone first. And if you don't mind, just introducing yourself and then go ahead.
Okay, sorry. My name is Keith Ambrose. I'm a long-term resident of the Alberni Valley. Property owner right behind the Bread of Life, the soup kitchen, have been since their inception. It was previously a restaurant prior to that. I've seen a lot of change in that neighborhood, folks. It's been worse, it's been better. I'm really, really upset about what's happening now. I had a chat with the gentleman from the Salvation Army, tried to tell him that what I got to say is not personal, and I want to say the same thing to you folks. I got some things to say aren't very complimentary. Don't take them personally. Think about what I have to say, please, and then try to respond properly rather than take insult. Okay, so first off, the moment I got this letter, I think the gentleman just referred to the letter sent to the public Friday, beginning of a long weekend, and I was upset because it looked like every other application I've seen, it's almost a done deal in my opinion. So here's the deal. I came to the city, I went across the street to the city offices, and I was directed back to corporate, which was the opposite of the last time I tried to go to a meeting. I came to the city, and they directed me across the street, and then I wanted to talk in front of you, Madam Mayor, as one of the... But you weren't there in the meeting. They did a good job on me. They've done it in the past. Ms. Haggard, you were temporary mayor a few years ago when you chopped 2 minutes out of my speech when I was opposing the downtown core, a bunch of money spent there, wasted. And fortunately, you guys backed down on that one. Thank you. Now, I asked if I could appear as a what is it on what it says here? A delegation. And then I show up, I pick up this piece of paper. I ask excuse me. So I asked about this, why is there nothing in a delegation? I was told by this lady right here that there are 3 delegation positions were filled for this meeting. And that I had other options. So I'm gonna express myself. I'm gonna take all my options, trust me. So I'm gonna file a formal complaint. I'm gonna come to talk to you, Mr. CEO, about that. I don't think that's fair. I don't know whether it's because I'm an Indian or what it is. Maybe I'm an educated Indian, and that makes me dangerous. It probably does.
We do.
I'm sorry. I've been
hear
discriminated against in this council chamber for speaking for too long. I'm speaking out, so just give me a break.
I want to make sure that you have the opportunity to give us your thoughts today. We want to hear them, but I have to ask you to be respectful to staff, just like we will be respectful to you.
I would appreciate they return the respect then, and I'm not getting it. So, but thank you. I will from here on try to be as respectful as possible while I'm being disrespected. That's normal for me, by the way. I've been a long time in this business. So, first of all, I should have had the opportunity. It's been removed from me. And now, speaking to the issue, I get further down the paper, and I see it says that the Salvation Army and BC Housing have finalized a support services agreement. Okay, now I'm not sure what that means, but I can tell you what's happening in that neighborhood today included, okay? So, again, this is not personal against the Salvation Army. They do some great work. But they are a multinational billion-dollar business, okay? And what they do, because of their religious beliefs, is they provide the service, they get the money, they pat themselves on the back. I see it advertised all the time. And then they kick those people out in the morning, and those people go straight over to the Fragstad, that other building, or the Harborview Apartments, rather. They get their drugs, they shoot them up, and they literally lay down and they're half dead all day. Forget camping, they can't even erect a tent. Come on, folks. They're dying in the alley. I walked by them this morning, it's horrible. I haven't cleaned my property in the last couple of weeks because I want to ask you city councilors, before you do this, before you do something foolish again, and I'm not saying don't do it, I'm saying just have a look at this. Take a walk in that alley, please. Do it tomorrow morning. Do it tomorrow morning. Do it. It'll be scare the daylights out of you. Now, here's the deal. They don't treat them as people. They don't. They treat them as a service. They provide a service, they treat them. They got our money, kick them loose, let them die in the. And when every time this happens, we can't file a complaint because it's on the street. When the ambulance comes, it scrapes them off the street, not from an address, off the street. When the fire department comes with them, they scrape them off the street, you guys. The reason you have no nuisance complaints is because of this procedure that they found a way. They don't have to worry about the nuisance building bylaw. Just get rid of the problem. Don't let them do their drugs inside. Now, if they did their drugs inside, you could provide better care. It says something about here, support services. What kind of support is it when you abandon your people once you got your money and you won't even come out and look? That back alley is despicable, folks. Now, I personally am removing myself. I'm going to move elsewhere. That's my only solution. It's not for me, I want you to do this. It's for the community, you guys. I have a grandson. I'm going to do everything possible to make sure he's not walking the streets of Port Alberni. I'm going to do that. That's my goal, man. This is sad here. My spouse will not come to town anymore. It's because it's so depressing what she sees. So she takes it to her heart. It's despicable. It's despicable. She said to me the other day, I heard the screaming in the alley, Keith. I didn't know if that was you or what it was. So I went out to have a look. And sometimes I just get mad at what I see. Sometimes I get angry. Sometimes I take action. This time, I saw a middle-aged woman in distress sitting behind the dumpster with her boyfriend wailing her problems. And I saw not elderly, but another middle-aged, a little older couple supporting itself, both drugged up, both couldn't stand. They're trying to get up the alley. There was a mentally ill person at the Harborview Apartments scattering the debris into the alley, which is still there. And it happens every day, still there today. And I walked away and I was so disheartened because if you don't know how to if you don't know how to help people, there's lots of us who do, and our suggestions are thrown out every time. Johnny has rights. Johnny has this. It's the advocates who are stopping. The people who are providing the service, they have a good heart, but they don't know the damages. These people have told me repeatedly from the soup kitchen, if it happens outside our door, we don't give a damn. Now, I've spoken to the gentleman from the Salvation Army more recently, and I found him very respectful, very responsive, and I believe he took care of the issue for me. It was a small issue in comparison to what I'm talking about. But if we're going to have this soccer match next year and we're going to take another batch of the despondent, we need services, and you don't have them. So if they're going to provide a shelter, I heard something about a cleanup every day. It's going to have to be twice a day, folks, and it needs to be. You need to talk to people like me. And it's the next line. I'll just move to the next line. This is important. And Mr. Dame, I don't mean anything personal. I don't know you, but you agreed. I remember a lot of things. You agreed as a business owner that this would, as a neighbor and a business owner, that you agreed with this when they first application, and I thought that was a bit odd since you're a block away and not very much affected by it. And across the street, the pub, they agreed, and I've talked to them, and they're okay with it. I sat in the pub. I'm not okay with it. The pub I am, not the view. So, and then you spoke to the Marine Center that's occupying the old bank, that vacant building currently, the vacant building. They approved it. They're good neighbors. But the real neighbors, Rick from the H&R block and myself, no, there's no good neighbor agreement. Then I asked Scott Smith a while back, quite a few months ago. I was angry and I told him I wanted to see this good neighborhood agreement. I wanted to speak to the CEO. I spoke to Scott, but I never heard back. I never heard of this, what happened. I never heard at all what happened with that. I never got my meeting. And here I am today on the same issue. So there is no good neighbor. I'm the neighbor. How you have a good neighbor agreement? You never spoke to the neighbors. They're not good. I'm going to say this out loud. That Salvation Army is not a good neighbor. They're a horrible, despicable neighbor. Now, any of my other neighbors, I would just speak to them directly and go, listen, this is wrong. This is wrong. When you're going to ruin, not just, I don't worry about my neighborhood. Don't worry about the fact that I can't sell my property. Don't worry about that. That's just me. Worry about the future of the children in this community, folks. Don't rubber stamp stuff. You haven't checked into it. Put this off for a week or two. Make them sit down with me and Rick. We can solve some of these problems. Cleanup is easy. They need to do it on their budget, not the city budget. I say the last thing I saw, and I'm a very observant man, And I went out and I wanted my neighbor to come out and see his back, which he refuses to do. He's one of those, I don't give a damn, let it blow down the alley, his exact words. So I went back there and the next day and I saw, what did I see? Excavator, backhoe bucket scraping. Okay, now I'm thinking, that was a disaster there and I wouldn't touch it either, but the city used a backhoe, okay, because the humans in the city, the workers rather, don't deserve to be exposed to this kind of filth that's back there. These people are living in the garbage. They take the garbage, they open it up, doesn't matter what kind of garbage, folks. They go through it, and 15 other people go through it that day. It moves around, it moves around, it moves around, and it's mental illness, you guys. The mental illness. So you don't attract a bunch of people who need mental health help and just get your money off them, get your service, pat yourself on the back, and let them go. You don't do that. Because what's happening here, I'm intelligent enough to see this because I saw this previously. When the FIFA, the soccer, goes ahead, we're going to get our share. And I don't know if anybody remembers, some of you councillors weren't here, but I suggested, and I got food for it, and I meant it, that if we're going to have homeless, and I know some of these are our people, I get this, and I get the circumstance, I get it, I'm not dumb, and I'm not uncaring. Why don't we go, if we're going to bring them in, from the outside, why don't we go pick them? Why don't you send me and I'll select some good ones? Like, what's wrong with that? Some that can recover, some that can, I know how to help. You know what I do for help right now? I'm moving to the Beauforts, and they're rejecting what you guys are doing and wholeheartedly. And when it comes to transportation that they've been offered, we're going to say no, and we're going to take care of ourselves, and we're going to have nicer transportation. Currently, I just pick up whatever person needs a ride, and then I bring them back when they need it. That's how it works, right, in the country. And if somebody needs to go to the hospital, we pay for Handy Dart, and nobody uses it. No, maybe they don't even know about it. Okay, we don't need help from the city. You guys certainly are after some money. There's no question about it. You're not going to get it. Cherry Creek's already putting up a fight. The Beaufort certainly. The Beaver Creek, a couple years away, they need some water infrastructure, and then they're going to fight you guys for everything you're worth. And then the lake, they're going to need a new director, as is Cherry Creek. And then they can start the fight. Now, you guys would love to spread the costs of doing things wrong. It's not going to happen. I'm glad to say I'm going to be out there. I already am. I'm going to be there. I'm going to fight you from there. So you guys shouldn't be giving these guys just a green light. Make them sit down with us. I know there's a need. I know these people need help. But to just take the money and discard the people onto the street, it means the taxpayer has to pick it up. And I'm going to stop right now. And one thing I want to say. One of our counselors told me that renters are taxpayers. And I want to show this to the people. This is what happens when you're a taxpayer. You get one of these. I had 2 properties, 2 of them, and a receipt says I paid those taxes. I'm a taxpayer, okay? I want to ask the CEO if he could, maybe at the next meeting, identify how many actual taxpayers, not people with exemptions, actual taxpayers we have in the city of Port Alberni. And I know, Madam Mayor, that you were quoted in the paper a couple months ago as saying it was 19,000 taxpayers. No, it said taxpayers. So you should have corrected them, not me. You should have corrected them. And one of our councillors here needs to understand that renters are not taxpayers. I was a landlord 30 years. I never collected a nickel of tax from anybody. Landowners are taxpayers. I'm a pensioner, right? And I'm leaving. I will be gone in a year's time, maybe 2, out of the city forever. Because I can't keep up. I'm a pensioner. There's no way we can survive all the social problems. That's not a municipality's job. The job is water, sewer, infrastructure. Yeah, keep the city happy, absolutely. But not bring in the province's problems and the federal government's problems. Not that. And I want to say this for the people who are new to Port Alberni. I want to say this because some of you didn't hear it, or some of the residents have poor memories. John Douglas, when he was elected, said he wanted to grow the 4 largest businesses in Port Alberni. He wanted to grow them, and I wanted to state what they are. Fire department, ambulance department, hospital, and police. Now, I don't know about you guys, but I was educated here in Port Alberni, graduated in 1980 when it was real to graduate. I'll say that out loud. None of those are businesses. Those are services, and the taxpayer pays the bill.
Thank you.
Thank you for my time. I use lots of it.
Thank you. And there's another gentleman at the back. You're welcome to come forward. Yes, please.
Sorry, buddy.
I apologize. I've been up since 12:30 this morning working. Whoa, I've got a face for radio. My name is Sandy Sturgeon. Two of the letters that you addressed as I walked in, thank you. I know I have 3 questions I would like to preface. When the Port Pub closed down, we saw an improvement in our area. We actually did. As of recent, it's gotten worse. We are now, within the last couple of weeks, the RCMP have actually called us 14 times we've got the video cameras, asking for help. We give it to them. I'm not going to say the members' names that have encouraged us to report every incident. The fire department, what that gentleman said, they're there. Ambulance is there. I mean, full credit to everybody. Full on, full on. So you know the sunflower alcove. Do you know what happened there the other day? Okay. The other day, there was an incident in the sunflower alcove. An individual overdosed. At that moment, when they were, I guess it's the Narcan, whatever, back up a second, my wife teaches music lessons to kids. We had 3 families show up with their children, and they left. This is not the first time, not even close. We have had students having to sit while my wife is teaching piano, and the incidents happen on the sidewalk, and then we don't see them again. To put this into context, we moved here from Arizona. We spent $236,000 US to get here, thinking this was the arts district, and for the train. Now the train, when I see the vandalism down there, that really gets me riled up. I mean, we put our heart and soul into that thing. That being said, though, in where we're at, this affects us. Not just a little bit, a lot, to the point where we have maybe 2 months left and we're gone. We have to be gone. Now, the sunflower alcove, so the people that live there, Shane and Sarah, upstairs. Sarah, the lady, and I know there's issues with the building, I'm not stupid. She went there to get away from what goes on. In the alcove, nightly, they hear all of the things that happen. I do have permission from them. I have permission from the reclamation place, the old BMO building, et cetera, and one other place. Now, the police have defined what is trespassing and what is public. And what I can do, they say, look, if you're gonna do it, call us first. I can, 32 years old, Sarah, upstairs, she's dead. She took her life. She couldn't handle what goes on there anymore. She was a friend. Shane came to us screaming. Shane asked if I could get a hold of the barber shop beside us. He wanted his head shaved. Guess what? I did. My wife went with him, as did I. He got his head shaved. My wife shaved her head too. The reality is, you allow these beds, okay? 20, but I guarantee you with what I've seen, and you know what goes on there, there's going to be 60 more come in. And then they're not going to, so my formal questions are, what happens to those who don't follow the rules and end up getting kicked out? What recourse do businesses who lose students, therefore income, of these issues have? How are you going to decrease the crime in Port Alberni if you continue to build the town to support the unhoused and not the rest of the citizens? That is a valid, we're going to lose everything concern for us. I apologize for, I'm not bougie for this, but I don't think it's going to work from historics for the last couple of years that we've been there. I would like to, never thought I was going to say this, would this honorable council take a moment to do a sympathy card for our neighbor? I think he bloody well deserves it. That man cries every day. And I thank you for your time.
Thank you for coming today, and thank you for sharing that. I'm really sorry to hear of that loss.
Sorry, I gotta turn my hearing aid up. I just thought that this is really weird. I can all of a sudden, my world's different again. Woo.
No problem. I just said thank you for coming today, sharing your comments, and very sorry to hear of this loss. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks. Thanks. Mr. Anderson.
Yes, I want to thank the last two speakers. It's a lot of things were said that needed to be said. And I refer back to the first speaker who said he was going to be saying things that weren't going to be popular, but that needed to be said. And he covered so many things, not always something that's controlled by city council, but what we're left with because of what governments don't do and don't help. And that's something that needs to be corrected, and I don't know with our politicizing things, how with their political parties, either one of them is going to make any changes. But something has to be done because both speakers had some very important things to do, and there's a lot of people in our community. I touched on it at the last time I spoke here, where there needs to be a means of getting together and sharing these feelings. Losing my point of view here. It's all right to talk about this, but the frustrations, and when you're talking with a feeling and commitment to something you believe in, sometimes you express yourself in a manner that isn't necessarily polite and comes across in the wrong way. I can relate to that from time to time. And so that comes out when people are talking about the issues, and I think we have to as the first speaker said, let that go and listen to the content of what is being said. I won't carry it much further than that. But there's a need in this community for people to talk to each other and talk about these issues and try and focus on who's responsible, because it isn't always city council. And I'm glad, Mayor, that you gave them the opportunity to express themselves. What I wanted to say is thanks to Councillor Solder. You bring things up, sometimes it's right in the back of my head when you brought up the racquetball club. I can't understand why there's so much confusion over that. And the reason I say that, I have on at least two occasions, I believe that's accurate, asked why the facial in that building has not been completed. And I was always told, not saying it wasn't right, that the permits are still out there. The permit was out for a long time, because I'm going back over 2 years. And one of the resolves is to, now that the permits have expired, one of the resolves would possibly be to renew that permit. I hope that doesn't happen. do we just renew and renew and renew a permit when the owners have no intention of completing the first? But it's an eyesore, and I would like, again, thanks to Councillor Solder, it's time that was cleared up, and how we do that, I don't know. Another issue that's going to come back and haunt us, and I know
Mr. Anderson, just for the time being, if you could try to keep your comments to the temporary use permit, because we're still on that section of the agenda. There will be formal question period after this.
Okay, I was confused at that because the last speaker was talking about different things too. I'll sit down and come back if you want. No, I just wanted to support the first speaker because I know he was emotional and he was committed to what he was saying, and sometimes you express yourself in ways that appear hostile, but it's true feelings we have to listen to. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'm going to depart. Thank you kindly for your time. Be well, all of you.
Thank you. And would any other members of the public or the applicant like to speak to the temporary use permit? Yeah, come on forward.
I'm Major Michael Ramsey from the Salvation Army and the Bread of Life. First, I would like to express my condolences. And, well, two things. I would like to express who we are at the Salvation Army, who's with us every day and every night, who our staff and everything is. But two, I would also like to just make sure that we don't confuse us with, is it Harborview Apartments that are right next door? It's very different. We have very different people who live next door from us who tragically go to H&R Block and other places to cash their checks, to engage in activities which cause lots of heartbreak for them and our friends at the Bread of Life and the shelter. Every night, we have more than a dozen and up to 25 people who stay with us who wouldn't have any other place to stay. Our building is open 24/7. We serve breakfast in the morning. And the way we run it is during the daytime hours, we have the soup kitchen portion open where everybody can come in, they can have 3 meals a day, they can sit down and be with their friends and their family, the Bread of Life. Then in the evening, we close down that portion of the building and we open up the shelter side where we have the 25 beds where people can have a nice, quiet night's sleep. We don't have in and outs through the night. Our people who are there are safe from the street environment where they otherwise would be for those hours. Then in the morning, they're welcome to come and join us on the other side for breakfast, lunch, dinner. We partner with a number of different agencies. We have our friends from CMHA there. We have our friends from CUAS there. We have our friends from VIHA there, all providing services where they know that our friends are going to be on a regular basis. Also, I want to let you know who our staff and our volunteers are, because many of our staff and our volunteers are people who at one time used our services or services like that. Many of our people are what in today's vernacular are called people with lived experience. We have a lot of what's people refer to as sober addicts. So people who have actually come from living on the streets and are now able to be giving back and helping out their friends who are going through the same struggles. And I'm so thankful that we're able to provide the service in the situation where we are, right next to the apartments where so much chaos, so much trauma, so much violence, and so much death happens. We're able to have our trained staff who themselves, some of them years ago, were struggling with all of this, are now able to provide a safe place for their friends. And they're trained on providing the Narcan response. They're trained on nonviolent crisis intervention. And they do. They do call the police regularly and they call the ambulance regularly because they care for their friends, they care for their loved ones. And that's the whole point of having that place open 24 hours a day, that in a chaotic part of this neighborhood, that we ourselves, who are part of the same community, same friends, same family with everyone else we have breakfast, lunch, and dinner with, are able to provide that same service in a safe place in an otherwise sometimes chaotic part of this community. And just speaking on myself, I'm so proud of my staff. I'm so thankful for our people who come there every day. I'm down there having breakfast, lunch, or dinner many times during the week myself, sitting with my friends, hearing their stories, and I'm so glad that we are able to provide a safe place for them. And I thank you so much for that opportunity. And of course, we're here asking to be able to continue providing that service, a safe place for those in need in our community. Thank you.
Thank you very much. We'll go to questions from council now. And council, I think questions to our manager of planning. And if there are any questions to the applicant, we can certainly ask those as well. Councillor Haggard.
Thank you. Brian, I was wondering if I could ask a question. For the emergency warming center, it says during cold weather emergencies, is there a certain temperature that will allow that to open? Because it's not going to be open every night, am I correct?
Through the mayor to Councillor Haggard, that's correct. It wouldn't be opened all the time. And from the documents submitted to us by Salvation Army, they do have a cold weather emergency response plan. And in that, the responsibility for designating a cold weather emergency is on Salvation Army staff. And if council would like more clarification on temperature thresholds, I would just request that you ask Major Ramsey to approach the mic again. Thank you.
Yes, I could just make a comment too as well. I'm going to make an assumption that a lot of these issues in this area do not come from the Bread of Life. They come from the apartments next door to the Bread of Life. And that's why I brought up this building to the manager of community safety. And I think that this building has to be one of our next priorities. We have a problem with landlords in this community take advantage of our vulnerable population. There was a landlord who was on 4th Avenue, and this council spent a lot of staff time and council time and money to support the building of the tiny home village and got rid of that issue. Then we had the Port Pub. Again, a lot of staff time, a lot of council time, and a lot of money to eradicate the Port Pub. And now this building has to be next. So again, I think we're making assumptions that these issues are coming from the Bed of Life, and I don't believe that is so. I do know that Salvation Army is very receptive. If there's any complaints, that they get on those issues right away. They're very good community departments, partners, and they take very good care of people in our community. So I just want to thank them for their service. And again, my heart goes out to you. There's so many social issues in this community, and we're trying to deal with them, but it does take a lot of time. And I think there was a comment made earlier. It is not the city's issue. It should be a provincial issue, but has been downloaded to the city. If we don't do it, nothing's going to get done. So it is our responsibility. These are our people.
Sure. Because you're heading out, I'm going to let you make one more comment, and then we're going to finish council comments.
And there's my voice for magazines. I agree with what is said. We know the people, the ones that are there responsibly, I'll put it that way, perhaps not correct, great people. It's the others, and that is a problem. Yeah, I absolutely agree, full on. Some of those people, I quite enjoy engaging with them throughout the day. There's some sad stories, but also a lot of hilarity. I don't have a problem with that at all. So no, that is not what I'm saying. Please don't take that in the wrong context. It's outside of that that migrates around the core and then spreads. That's all. No, I've got no problem with the good ones. There it is, just, but it's the others that are there that are, it's scary. I really don't want to pick up blood and glass again, right in literally our doorway, and have to explain to parents. So the little park that's in front of us, every morning I'm out there, I clean out the crack pipes. People walk their dogs. I was told, I don't know if I'm right or wrong, but I was told that if a dog gets touched with fentanyl or whatever, it kills them. I don't want these folks walking by with their pets, kids to have, so I'm out there every morning. I clean it up. And the street sweeper for the town, I don't know his name, lovely gentleman. Yep, he takes care of it. Great guy. So allow the context of where I'm at. This, I will now depart. Do I have to?
Yes, just hit the red button. Thank you for those comments. Councillor Solda.
Be well. Enjoy. Thank you.
Well, we've had some very emotional moments here and a lot of truths out there and a lot of different scenarios. And my dilemma would be, how do you move forward to satisfy everyone in the long run? You know, we know that it's not necessarily the bread of life. It could be the apartments at the same time, and we know there's lots of issues. I know Salvation Army, when I made a call, I was driving by, I made a call to the Salvation Army saying just down the block in the old brick building, there was somebody, I didn't know if they were alive or not, and they said, oh, we'll go check, because I was coming to a meeting, which states that they do look after what's going on. But it's not just in that area. It comes all the way up to the block here where there's businesses that have said to me, we've had to clean up needles in the morning and we're afraid to go in. We've had to clean up where it became an outdoor toilet to their buildings and stuff like that. So it's not just in that particular area. So I don't know how we solve it. What I would like to know is, does the RCMP have stats? How many times they've gone to different areas of that particular, in that area, which would be great to know, the stats on that. And same as ambulance, the paramedics and stuff like that. That would be an interesting to have some of those stats. The other one is we've had the Canadian Maritime Supply and Consulting, the old Bank of Montreal, who just spent a few $1 million cleaning up and redoing their building. And Coastal Restoration is the name. And they sent us a letter in correspondence a while back. We've all got that letter. It's actually in your mailboxes now too, just to, if you need to take a look at it. So they're not happy with what's going on and all around their building, and they've been cleaning that up. So, and the mayor probably could say more about it. I don't blame them. And it's not just them. All those businesses around and up a little bit and down Argyle who have invested. What do we do? What do we do? How do we solve this problem? Because we also know there's, and I really hate it, so don't shoot the messenger here, the NIMBY effect. Where do we put these people? You know, where do they go? And my other question maybe for the Salvation Army is, this is a temporary. What is your long-term goal? What do you want to do? What's your long-term goal? Because we're just giving you temporary in the past, maybe in the future, but I need to know what's your future plans? What's your outcome of all this? And I know it's to help people, and people do need help. We have also the 4th Avenue, the tiny homes who are helping, but now where do we go? So those are my main two questions is, or three, is the stats, the Salvation Army for their future, and of course, you know, how do we move forward? What do we do? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Major Ramsey, would you like to come forward and just speak to what the intent would be if there is one at the end of this temporary use permit?
So the temporary use permit referring to the emergency weather response. So, well, I'm hoping at the end of 3 years that there won't be a large homeless population in that area, so that when it hits below 0 degrees, they won't need a place to go, in which case then we won't provide a place for them to go. My hope is that wherever in this community and any community that somebody would need a place to go when it's cold, that the Salvation Army and other agencies would come together and they would provide that need. So, I mean, that would really be my goal, is that whenever there is a need for a cold weather shelter, wherever it would happen to be, that we would be available to provide it. If for some reason 3 years from now, there's still quite a few people living in the streets in that area, I would hope that City Council might consider rezoning the area so that some other responses could be provided. Maybe some temporary housing, maybe some supported housing, maybe some other response. But from our Salvation Army point of view, as long as there's a need to provide for those who are on the absolute margins, which is all EWR is, it's just the people who have absolutely nowhere else to go. So all I can say is that as long as there are people who have nowhere else to go, we would really love the opportunity to give them a place to be. Thank you.
Thank you. And maybe if you don't mind staying for just a moment, I think I'm concerned that in our late correspondence today, we received a couple of letters, I mean, one particularly, as well as the coastal restoration letter, that I want to be really clear, the coastal restoration letter was not focused on the Salvation Army or the Bread of Life. And I think that's really important to say and to recognize that while it may fall into some of the comments that we're hearing today, it was certainly not aimed at this application or at that property specifically. But I'm concerned about the Dog Mountain letter, for instance, that, you know, Dog Mountain, I recall, wrote a letter of support for the temporary use permit. When it came forward a few years ago, I know that they've, you know, supported financially with donations, and been really proud to work alongside the Bread of Life and really support, you know, the activities, the services that are being provided to people in our community who need it. And to see them express concern about this application really causes me more concern. So I think I recognize the comments that we're hearing today. I think what I wholeheartely accept and agree is that the issue is getting worse in the uptown. I mean, I can see that, you know, I'm uptown a lot as well. I can see that. And what I don't accept is that that's because of the Bread of Life. In, you know, no world that, you know, I can see does providing people somewhere to eat, somewhere to sleep, somewhere to be safe, make our community worse. So I don't accept that this is as a result of the Salvation Army. And while it's easy to blame it on the building next door, and I think we do that often, and that is obviously a big part of the problem, I also don't think that we should try to suggest that that's the whole problem. I know that, you know, the Salvation Army and the Bread of Life are going to see people and feed people and have people sleep who may also be causing some of the concerns that people are bringing forward today. So, and I think that those people need to eat as well.
Absolutely.
And they need to have somewhere warm as well. And so there is a real challenge. I think that the Salvation Army and Bread of Life are a part of the solution, but I'm wondering if you could speak to how you view the neighborhood and from your perspective, because while you are providing the services, you are also, you know, a property owner and a business of, you know, a service provider in the area. Has it gotten more challenging for you, and do you see any additional themes happening that that are contributing to the problem, because the problem is getting worse?
Certainly. One of the things we definitely try to do very much and very intentionally is hold on to the success stories, because there are so many heartbreaking stories. I know a number of you have been in the Bread of Life, and we've got our tree on the wall, which has got the names of friends in our community who have passed away due to overdose, and many of them are family members or friends of those involved, and we honor them. There's many heartbreaking stories of people we know in the community, but we really try and hold on to the success stories. Adela, one of our regulars at the Bread of Life, passed away last week. She was sober for many, many years, right? It had nothing to do with her passing away. She spent all her waking hours with us, just being with her friends, mostly seniors like herself, doing crafts, talking, and having a safe place in that downtown area that she could go. Sometimes those streets aren't safe, and so it's wonderful when there's a building that they can go in and they see their actual family members and their friends who have become their family members. And it's such a blessing that they can hear the testimonies of so many people who have been struggling in so many ways, who have been sober for a day, a week, a year. We have our Pathway of Hope coordinator, and every week she comes and tells me another story of somebody we've been able to find a home for or something like that. We have, of course, people that come in and chat with the nurses regularly. We have our partner agencies that are working with people, and we really try and share the success stories with each person. So yes, there's times where our community and our society at large does seem to be getting much worse, and the challenges seem to be getting a lot more difficult. But I can really say that there are dozens of people who regularly congregate inside those walls, whose lives are a living testimony to the fact that lives can be transformed, and we can all move beyond wherever we happen to be today. And when we are, we can offer our hands to help each other out, because really at the Bread of Life, we really are helping out ourselves, our neighbors. We're not just an outside agency doing something to somebody. We're walking every day with our friends and family, trying to provide a safe place in a chaotic environment. And we'd really like to do this as long as possible.
Thank you. And from your perspective, do you see any opportunities? I'm not asking you to comment on the building next door specifically, but are there additional opportunities where the city can help to, I think, manage some of the challenges that we are seeing in the uptown area right now? Do you see services that are needed that are not being provided currently?
So I can't really comment on sort of the building next door or things like that, but what I can say is I'm very thankful for the services that we have been allowed to provide in our space. I am very thankful that we are able to provide laundry services to people right in that area. I'm so thankful that we are able to provide showers right in that area for people who need it. I am so thankful that we have washrooms that are available to people who need it. I am so thankful that there is a safe place where people can go, seniors can go, people can go with their children, a safe place where they can go and have a meal with friends. And I'm so thankful that in the evenings that there's a quiet, safe bed that a person can go in, where there's not in and out throughout the whole night, but they can have a good night's sleep. And I'm just so thankful that we are able to be open 24 hours a day so that we don't need to ever toss people out on the streets. We're able to walk side by side. And I'm so thankful that, again, our staff very much are our family and part of the community with those we walk alongside. And I'm really, 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 really pleased that it's family, it's us, and we're lending a hand to our loved ones. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Patola.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. When this original TUP application was made, I recall former Councillor Paulson saying quite clearly, excellent service, much in need, wrong place. And I would join Councillor Haggard in saying it's not the Bread of Life or the Salvation Army that causes the problem, but I would also join Madam Mayor in saying it's not a particular building. It's not this building. It's not that building. It's not this low-income residence. It's not this place where people just exercise compassion and take in those in need. This is not a debate about compassion. And unfortunately, as important as compassion itself is, it gets raised as the sole argument for service provision to those that are in a vulnerable population. I have said before, and I will say again, homelessness has been around since Adam. Substance use to self-medicate against the traumas of the world has been around since not very long after Adam. It's not the location, it's not the bread of life that causes problems. In fact, the existence of patrons and clients there doesn't even need to be seen as a problem. What the issue is that we're confronting here specifically is an application for a temporary use permit for a problem that has no solution being provided. The only solution that we have here is hope. Perhaps that is the only solution to the issues that the Bread of Life and Salvation Army cause their business to be centered around. But we're not talking about those issues. We are talking about whether or not this is the appropriate place for a temporary use permit that has no further consideration has been made in the last 3 years, and no suggestion is made that there will be any consideration in the next 3 years as to the permanency of this solution. I'm a little disappointed in that, I think would be the best word, and not disappointed in the individuals that should be providing that solution, because of course I am one of them. I can be disappointed in myself. But I'm disappointed that whilst service providers are so busy providing services, all they can do is say, we just want to keep providing our services, barely keeping our heads above water and not making a difference. And unfortunately, council is charged with this concept of temporariness and permanence. And in the words of Councillor Paulson, is there a better place for this? So here's my observation on the issue, which is that we live in a community. I'm reminded of the Sesame Street song, "These are the people in your neighborhood." And in fact, in our neighborhood, we have excellent facilities, such as the Salvation Army and Bread of Life, that are part of our community and provide services to people who are part of our community, who reside or spend the better part of their waking day within a community that has businesses, has large corporate businesses, small family-run businesses, government services. It's a community. And what disappoints me the most is that whilst we focus on certain service providers providing for certain members of the community, we fail to have anybody working together to build the larger community. Now, if that's because there are demographics in our community that require specific services, then perhaps we should be considering a specific place for those specific needs and services. Does that sound like warehousing people in a out-of-the-way, unseen place? It might. But if there's no commitment to building the greater community, then really what advocates of a particular demographic are saying is that we don't want to be part of that greater community. And we hear complaints coming to council from people in that greater community, people that are part of your neighborhood, people that serve, make, and welcome beer drinkers in your community who are upset but ignored. People that are residents in that community who are upset but ignored. People that run businesses that are upset but ignored. So if there is no plan for a long-term solution, if there is no commitment to community to be offered other than hope that we won't have to have this problem in the future, then no amount of compassion, I think, can overwhelm the needs of the entire community. And in fact, I would say that by ignoring the needs of the entire community, we do a disservice to those who are in need of compassion, for lack of a better word. Don't want that to be offensive, because those that give it are at the end of their rope. Other people in the community are at the end of their rope. They have tried to participate and be part of the community, and certain demographics have rejected them. And consequently, this temporary use permit is now at the end of its rope. It's spent its 3 years. It has achieved the services that it was designed to provide, but it has not achieved the transition from temporary to permanent. And so at this point in time, I'm wrapping up, I would be opposed to this temporary permit because there is nothing supporting the application other than hope and a plea of compassion, both of which existed before and both of which are valid, but neither of which move towards a permanent solution. Thank you.
Thank you. I just want to comment that firstly, I don't think it's the role of the Salvation Army or the Bread of Life to solve, and you're not suggesting that, but to solve the permanency problem of housing in the community. I think your comment is more aimed at what's the permanence, and we had a comment about apply for a rezoning. If that's the next step, then that does change the conversation somewhat. I will say though that I don't believe that the only solution that we're looking at here is hope. We're all aware of an application in the works coming forward for supportive housing 2 blocks away. We're talking about, I think, was it 25 units of the shelter overnight beds. The housing application that, we're expecting to receive for council to review is more units than that. So when this actually came forward, and Councillor Paulson did make that comment, the Second Ave project actually was discussed as the future state of this. So I think, in my opinion, there's a very direct plan forward. It's not a plan being put forward by the Salvation Army, as it's outside of their scope. It's not their project. And that project may not pass. But I do see this as temporary use permit because we don't have a housing project adequate currently built. Now, there's also a chance that as the Second Ave project has been delayed in coming forward, that we're talking about a 3-year extension to this now. The Second Ave project could be not approved. It could not be built by then. We could be in a similar problem when this comes forward. But I do believe that there is at least hope that we have a transition plan and more than a hope for a transition plan that is a lot more than just hope that the problem is solved, because we do have a supportive housing application coming forward from BC Housing, being put forward by BC Housing. So that certainly gives me some degree of confidence that, there's a lot to go through still that will come before council. Members of the community, I know have, things to say on that, but I think in my opinion, this is exactly what a temporary use permit should be used for, a transitionary step, not a plan to just delay a rezoning, and I know that's not what's being said, but not a plan to delay a rezoning because a temporary use permit is easier for the time being, and I would take issue if I thought that was the case. But a temporary use permit is to provide a service that, is not a permanent solution, while the service is needed in this case. I think the service is needed, and I do believe we have at least a realistic path to the service not being needed at the end of the temporary use permit as a result of the housing application, supportive housing application that we know is coming forward. So really appreciate your comments. I think I align with your way of thinking. I see the path with that potential housing project to at least move from where we're at today to this not being needed at the end of the temporary use permit. Are there other comments? Councillor Dame and then Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Yeah, I'll just share my thoughts as well. I'm not feeling particularly eloquent at the moment. There was a lot of very emotional statements made, yeah, quite frankly, we're in a very tough spot as a community, and we're not the only one that's here. I know that we when we speak with members of councils and people who live in other places, they're facing similar issues. And so when we hear all of these concerns from a business community that we desperately need to support, and they feel opposed to a volunteer service organization that we also desperately need to support, it puts us in a tough spot. But from all the statements we've heard today, what I have become further convinced of is that we're facing a multifaceted crisis that's beyond the ability of any one organization or government to address. And but what I have not been convinced of is that the Bread of Life and the Salvation Army are anything other than critical helps within this crisis. I do believe the Salvation Army is of massive benefit to our community. I support them. I deeply appreciate their efforts, and I can only imagine how much worse off our local situation would be without them. So when they ask for support, I'm typically pretty quick to jump in and say, yeah, let's support. But I do hear the concerns of the business community, and though I believe the services provided in this area are not the cause nor catalyst of the social issues being discussed, they are a draw regardless. And because they help, there is an attraction for an array of people with an array of needs. And as Councillor Patola said, the issue of concern is primarily one of location. And it's one of finding the best way of meeting an end goal, of achieving an end goal, of helping people while supporting the health of the city in general. So because of this, I'm struggling to support this particular request because I'm not sure that this temporary measure in this particular location is the best plan to support a healthy city or neighborhood. And I say that coming from a place of openness that I could be convinced otherwise with a more complete plan or more information. But without those things, I don't feel equipped to make this decision today. And so as such, I cannot support the request. So for me, it's either no, not this particular plan, or not today, we need more information, and perhaps after learning more, I could support it down the road. Thanks.
Could you provide some specifics for additional information that you think would be valuable?
Yeah. So I appreciate thoughts such as the clean team cleaning up. But the truth is, I work in this neighborhood. I walk this neighborhood regularly, and I do see the issues that have been mentioned, and they are significant, and they do affect business in the area. And so I feel that in trying to do good, we often end up, sort of creating harms that we don't intend. And I think that for me to support this, I would need to know how some of those harms were being mitigated and how this was contributing to a long-term goal of improving the situation. And I very much share the hope of Major Ramsey that we won't have these issues in a few years. But I think that if we're being realistic and honest with ourselves, we know that we're in for the long haul here. And I think that I would like to see a longer term plan that showed how something like this temporary, I'm gapping on the permit, thank you, is contributing to the long-term plan for this area. Because, I mean, perhaps the solution is over the next few years, we work with the Salvation Army and the Bread of Life to find a more suitable location. But I mean, there's never going to be a perfect spot, right? But if we continue to do the right things in the wrong places, it's going to harm things that we don't want to see harmed, and we're going to see business suffer, and we're going to see people. We're helping one person to harm another, and I don't think that that's the intention either. So I think to your question, what would I need to see in order to support it? I think I would need to see a really significant mitigation effort to make sure that the neighborhood is going, like I see the Good Neighbor Agreement. It's good. It's somewhat vague in terms of like that the adjacent area will be monitored for garbage and encampments and things like that. But there's no I don't think there's a specific radius, is there? And even if there was, I mean, yeah, it's hard. I guess what I'm saying is I'm not sure exactly what I'm looking for. I'm just looking for something that eases some of my concerns and worries that this isn't, going to be a problem. And,
Thank you. I appreciate those comments, and I think sort of summing that up, I think what you're looking for is really a mitigation plan for impacts to the neighborhood. And I think that that's a very valid thing to ask for, that could be asked for before we vote on this. I don't see that as the responsibility of the Salvation Army solely. I see the Salvation Army as a part of contributing to what could this look like. As I asked Major Ramsey, what is missing in terms of services in the area it could be garbage pickup, it could be bylaw, foot patrols, it could be a variety of things. But what is missing in the neighborhood? Because I think we can recognize that the issues that exist have gotten more challenging in the very near future. And that could be since the Port Pub closed down, but I actually think it's even more recent. So there is something, happening, and it's not going to be one small thing, but what is the plan to mitigate the neighborhood impacts? I think is a very reasonable request, and something that we could ask our staff to work with the Salvation Army, as well as probably a few other service providers in the area, to give some thought to bring back and give us a better idea of some actionable items that could happen in order to make this. Whatever. I don't have any more words for that. Thank you, Councillor Dame. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So just first of all, I'd like to thank the speakers, Mr. Ambrose, Mr. Anderson, and Mr. Sturgeon, who's left already, and Mr. Ramsey, Major Ramsey as well, for coming forward today. And I appreciate you, Mayor, allowing the speakers to come today and give us some more perspective. I'd like to also echo, especially what Councillor Haggard said, and the other speakers as well, is I'm not convinced it's a Bread of Life or Salvation Army issue. The surrounding area and those lines can be blurred, but as you said, Madam Mayor, giving someone a place to stay, a place to eat, and a place to be safe is not making our community worse. So I have some questions, if that's okay, just to to have some clarifying questions. So, so the temporary use permit 2202 is existing right now. It says it has expired on September 1st, 2025. So does that mean that if this doesn't go through today, does that mean that the Bread of Life is closing tonight, or how does that work?
Thank you very much for the question. Yeah, no, this one here is one that I've dealt with throughout the municipal career. When a permit expires, it's a lot of time rests with council on the decision. It's nice if the renewal for a permit becomes before it's expired. It makes it harder for a decision after it's already expired. So again, with this coming forward as other applications, administration usually doesn't take action until council has time to consider it. So in this effect, that's what we're doing right now is we are considering it. So no, I don't believe we'd be closing down the Bread of Life as of today. Again, we're waiting for council's decision on this very important decision for the community. However, as administration, it does put us in a tough spot. So it is, we know that the permit has elapsed, and we do have to address it in short order. In saying that, administration is aware of some of the issues in the uptown, and have been talking about how we may address it and the budgetary costs that go along with that. I know that we'll be also lobbying for some of the solutions at UBCM with other levels of government. But again, nobody has solved these issues across the country. I wish they had, so then we could follow suit. But I believe it's a difficult decision that's in front of council today. But no, we will not be enforcing the expiration of the permit tomorrow.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. That's question number one. And I appreciate that, Mr. Fox, because the last thing I think we would want to see is if we can't come to an agreement today that the Bread of Life closes, those people are on the street. That would just add more issues to the street and to those people, of course. The Emergency Warming Center, and I just want to get this clarification too. So this council talked about the Emergency Warming Center one winter, not last year, year before, on Lower 3rd Avenue, and it was not a unanimous decision. I do respect that, but we did allow the building that is on Lower 3rd Avenue to be used as an emergency warming center. Is this part of the application because they want to get ahead of this and to introduce that now rather than having to worry about what happened last time, which is, oh my goodness, it's gotten really cold and we know we need to open up, which is totally fair.
Thanks for the question. I believe that is exactly what the Bread of Life is trying to do. Usually this comes to us in an emergency, and then we're trying to scramble to allow a warming session, a center. There isn't one currently in the city. Again, we rely on service providers and the province to come up with solutions and fund them. So again, without actually the resources to put up a permanent warming center, we do rely on our service providers. So I believe this is to get ahead of it. Now, the parameters differ from province, from region, in even BC, for what those temperatures are. There's lots of factors to consider. Again, I'm not sure what the current situation is at the Salvation Army or the Bread of Life for the warming center. Again, we could dive into that more if council wishes us to.
Thank you very much, and I will be asking Major Ramsey about that building really quickly. I'll get to that. So, but just the hour or the days of operation it was open, and how many people you did help during that emergency with the building down on 3rd Avenue. So I'll get to that question in a second. Just the support services agreement between Salvation Army and BC Housing. Can I just get a clarification exactly what that agreement will contain? It look like because I didn't see it in the package, if I'm not mistaken, or did I miss it? It was under, well, yeah, Schedule C on page 71, but there was nothing there. So I just wanted to understand what the BC Housing Supportive Service Agreement was.
Through Madam Mayor to Councillor Mealy. So the existing emergency shelter, which contains 25 beds that's currently operating. There is a support services agreement with BC Housing, which the Salvation Army has had since 2023, and it expires in 2026. And that outlines the terms of the funding they receive from BC Housing and certain operational parameters. And I could ask Major Ramsey to elaborate further. We're just currently in the process. Actually, I'll be honest, today we received a copy of the current agreement. And we are just awaiting to receive a copy of an agreement for the emergency warming center, one that the last one expired at the end of last winter in March 2025.
Thank you very much. So, and yeah, so if I have just a possibility to ask Major Ramsey just really quickly. So, and if you can recall, and it doesn't have to be right at this very second, obviously, but when we did allow the operation of the warming center on Lower 3rd Avenue, how many days of operation were you open during that time, if you can remember? It was a couple years ago.
Yeah, so I can't remember specific days, but a rule of thumb that we've been following is when it falls below 0, or when there's any other sort of specific weather warning. So if we have rain coming together for a number of days, so it's just for an emergency situation where the shelters and other provisions that currently exist are unable to provide for the needs of those in our community.
Thank you very much, through you, to Major Ramsey. You know, I was trying to recall how many days. I don't believe they were open that much, because obviously this is Port Alberni, the West Coast. If it does dip under 0, it is very cold out there and with some rain, but I didn't think they were open for that many days, so I'll try to find that out as well. And then just the last clarification. So it's a 6-year span. So we've gone 3 years already, so the final 3-year extension, if it happens today, and after that it has to be rezoned or move somewhere else. Just want to make that clarification.
Yeah, through the chair, that is correct. The maximum under the Local Government Act is a 6-year term, so this would be 3 already expended, and then the 3 would be.
So I guess the last comment I will make, Madam Mayor, is that we've heard many speakers today, and I respect them all, the talking about not being in the right place, which we talk about rezoning all the time. The question for council on rezoning is this the right use of the land? So the question here is this the right use for the land? Well, I guess when we talk about getting additional information, where else would it go? That's the information I want to know then from someone, is if it's not going to be here, then where is the suitable place within our community to have the bread of life and a service like this? Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. I think that's a great point. I don't think in the short term we are going to find another location. That said, I really appreciate the discussion that's happened today, as well as the comments from members of the public. I'm going to move that, and bear with me because I've got 3 sections of things here in this motion I just noted down. I'm going to move that council postpone the request for decision for TUP 25-03 and request that staff collaborate with the Salvation Army as well as other relevant service providers to put together a neighborhood mitigation plan to be brought back for council's review prior to making decision on the TUP. And further, that council direct administration to not take any action on the expired temporary use permit until the issue is brought back to be considered by council with the additional information requested. Moved by myself and seconded by Councillor Solda. And I'll just comment that I do think that in the world that we're in today, this is a critically important service. I do not want people to be left outside because we think this isn't the right spot. But I agree with Councillor Paulson from years ago. This is not the right spot. This is the spot we have. And it's the position that we're in today that we need people to have somewhere. That said, I do believe that we can still, as a council, hold a standard that is, you know, this is the spot because it's the spot we have available today and we believe in the service. However, the impact on the neighborhood should reasonably be expected to be extremely minimal. So I do think that there's more that can be done. I don't believe that it is like an issue of the Salvation Army, or that we should say, you know, Salvation Army, if you want this, then you have to do all of these things. Obviously, there's always going to be conditions, but I think that this is a neighborhood issue that we all have a role in looking for ways to impact positively. I think the Salvation Army's role in this is feeding people, keeping them warm, keeping them safe, and I think they do a fantastic job of that. Further to that, I'm sure they probably being on the ground in this area, as well as maybe some of the neighbors who have spoken today, might have input into what Other ways are that some of the impacts that have been expressed today could be mitigated. Clean Team is a great option for us to be looking at expanding, but I think there's probably a lot more than that. So I think our staff are highly capable, I'm looking at Mary Claire, highly capable of undertaking this work and then bringing it back to council to make a decision on the temporary use permit. And I will just say that I am likely to vote in support of it. I would personally vote in support of it today. But I do think that we can hold ourselves to a standard of putting together a plan before we make that decision, and trying as hard as possible to mitigate some of the impacts. And ultimately, as it's been spoken today about permanency, ultimately, I think we need to be extremely realistic when housing applications come in front of us, especially supportive housing applications, about moments like these and decisions like these, because the people in our community who need these services are not going away. They need to have somewhere to live. If we don't want them housed overnight in overnight shelters, then we need to provide them housing, permanent housing. When we have opportunities for that, we need to recognize the significant value that that provides to our community. So I think that's all. Any comments on the motion? Sorry, Councillor Haggard.
Not a comment, but a question. And I support having a neighborhood mitigation plan, but I'm wondering if we're going to ask the Salvation Army to do it, should we not be asking other service providers in the area to also have the same plan? Because other service providers greatly impact the neighborhood as well.
Not asking the Salvation Army to do it, just asking them to participate in it. And so asking our staff to bring back, doesn't have to be a big plan that we hire a consultant for. I'm not at all asking about that. I'm asking for some real solutions, understanding the concerns that have been expressed to us today in person, in letters, in the previous letter as well, asking to come back with some real solutions of ways that we can mitigate some of those impacts that residents and businesses in the community are feeling in that area. Salvation Army can be involved in that process, and other service providers certainly can as well. But I think we should try to keep this real and tangible and not, built into like a big poverty reduction plan or something like that. Let's keep it as action focused and oriented as possible. Councillor Dame and then Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Just really quick, I do want to acknowledge that there are a lot of organizations in the community doing great work, and many of them have been extremely willing to sign good neighbor agreements and participate in efforts to try to make sure that the people they serve are being cared for in a way that doesn't harm the neighbors. And I appreciate that. And so I do want to be careful that, I appreciate Councillor Haggard pointing out, like, we don't want to feel like we're punishing the ones who are trying to help and are being willing. This is more about a greater, just sort of collaborative effort to make sure that the neighbors and the businesses are feeling supported and not just token agreements being signed. That that there's genuine follow-up, that there's genuine actionable things being committed to that protect them and their own investments. So, yeah, thanks.
Absolutely. Thank you. Councillor Mealy.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. So I appreciate the motion, and I will support it. I appreciate the fact that we've clarified that nothing's closing down. These people are going to be taken care of, and the Salvation Army can still do their work. But again, to find another solution, and again, I think you said it, if this was a full-on rezoning, totally different conversation. But the temporary use permit will allow for the 3 years if it goes forward. But let's get a little more information. And again, I'll just say it again. That's just one of those things. Is if it's not going to be here, where is it? If someone can answer that question to me, then that'll help me a lot. So thank you very much.
Thank you. Councillor Solda.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I am almost on the same page as Councillor Dame through what you have said in here. It's a really hard one because I would give off my shirt, off my back, basically, to everything. But I still look at the impact on the businesses, and it's not just the businesses around that area. It's throughout the whole community, actually. I mean, we know Upper Redford has a lot of issues from the businesses that have talked to me, as well as right down to the waterfront here and other sectors. So unfortunately, this is what's come in front of us, and it's really, really hard. You know, I do want to help, and I've talked to other people who actually started warming centers throughout our community when they came before council, and they're still saying, we still have that issue. We need more warming centers. So do we do temporary, and where the tents are pitched like we had in the past, or do we have something more stable? I still would like to know the stats on if bylaws had a lot of complaints in that area, when they bring a report, if they have those numbers, it would be great to know what the numbers are in this particular area, since we're dealing with this area at this moment. So I would really like to see that, Madam Mayor. And nobody says we have to give a 3-year. We can give a 1-year or 2-year. That's the maximum is 6 years, right? So we can give them a 1-year. I still would like to see the future where if they only have another 3 years, if council decides to go that route, what is their future? What do you plan to do? And whether this council is sitting on as council or not, what is your future? There is nothing. I mean, we're going by every year, and I would like to see the future. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other comments? Okay, on the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed. Thanks, everyone. And if staff needs any further direction on what we're talking about, let me know. But hopefully that request was clear enough. Thanks, everyone. And we will move on to question period. This is an opportunity for members of the public to ask questions. Mr. Ambrose, come on forward.
Is that on now? Okay. Thank you, Mr. Patola. That was well said and appreciated. Mr. Mealy, thank you for what you had to say. Mr. Dame, I appreciate it. Mr. Verbugi, you've been very silent. I've heard some things that are concerning to me a little bit from you ladies, however, and from the Salvation Army. 100% those people are coming out of that Salvation Army service, they go to the Harbor View Apartments, they buy their drugs, they hit the needle, and they hit the ground, okay? No, it's not a Salvation Army problem. No one's saying that. What the problem is responsibility must follow your actions. Somebody needs to pay, somebody needs to do the cleanup. Somebody needs to oversee that when you guys hand out a permit of any kind, that it's being used properly. I'll use the farmers markets as a great example. I read earlier this year that the city council was considering hitting up my knitting grannies for some business licenses. And let me be very clear. As a market manager, when I started my market on 2nd Avenue, it was as a result of the corruption that I saw and the unhappiness and the failures of the other markets. And here's what I did about it. I didn't take a nickel off the knitting grannies because they can't afford it. They're not the problem. The problem is the market manager and your farm markets are profiting, not unlike the Salvation Army. Not unlike that at all. So if you guys hit the manager of the market, you can solve the problem. You just simply hand out a lease and you turn, and when I come to complain about the corruption, I met with Lies at the, it's not a bylaw issue. I go to Parks and Rec, and it's been dealt with, Keith. It hasn't been dealt with. My complaint is the same complaint that you folks want to tax Knitting Granny on. Forget Knitting Granny, forget taking her money. Hit the market manager between the eyes, man. Let me do it for you. And here, in this, there's solutions here, folks. Here's what I would do. Here's what I would do. First thing I do, I say, listen, we got a problem here. If this was my house and these were my children, okay, and they're going to hit the needle after I breakfast, I'm going to say, which one of you guys are going to hit the needle? And 3 of them put up their hands and the other 3 don't. I say, okay, you 3 get in the car. We're going to take you straight to the recovery center. We're not going to let you die on the street. We're going to drive you down to a center we already approved, stamped and approved by city council and in existence, and drop them off there and say, listen, please care for these people. And my buddy Vinny there, the paramedic next door, is going to help. But by dropping them in the alley and it's the Salvation Army. The Harborview Apartments has a drug dealer. You people don't send in the police. You let this happen. Previous councils will let this go on forever. Forever.
Thank you. Mr. Ambrose, do you have a question?
It's a police matter.
Yeah.
So you can solve this quickly.
So, Mr. Ambrose, this is question period, and so do you have a question?
Oh, yeah, I have a question. When are you going to involve us neighbors? I heard speak, or you get this party and this party and this party, and you got this fraudulent good neighbor agreement. How can you have a good neighbor agreement? How? I'm the neighbor. I've never seen it. Nobody will show it to me. You're withholding it from me. How are you going to go forward? I'll tell you how I'm going to get that agreement in front of me. I'm going to ask nicely, then I'm going to ask the court. That's what I'm going to do. And I'm going to get a hold of that agreement. No question asked. And then we'll have a look. So I would just like you guys to hand it over.
Thank you. I apologize. Maybe I'll just make it easy. The Good Neighbor Agreement is attached to the agenda today. It's on page 72.
Sorry?
The Good Neighbor Agreement you're looking for is attached on page 72, if I'm not mistaken.
I'm not hearing you. I'm sorry. My hearing is bad.
No, it's okay. Page 72 of the agenda today.
What?
The Good Neighbor Agreement. Let me go online. It's not in the...
Oh, I'm not an inline guy. Online guy.
I apologize. It's part of public record in today's
So why
meeting.
can't I get it in paper? Why can't somebody just hand it to me? Why am I being denied
You can
access?
absolutely have it printed off. Yeah,
The same way I was
it is
denied
a
access.
Mr. Ambrose, just a moment. It is a public document. It was included in today's agenda, and if you can't access it online, somebody will be happy to print it off.
I'll get some help. I'll get it. I'll get that agreement, but it's a shame. It's a shame that I got to come up here and argue about it. It's a shame somebody can't cooperate. And it's a shame I get lied to when I come to the city hall here. That's a damn shame. I don't know what this is about, but you folks got some work to do. Thanks for your input for this, though. You've done the right thing today. Put it off. Think about it. You all have legitimate things to say, but this nonsense, it's not the Salvation Army. They've heard this before, year after year. It absolutely is them. Absolutely. And they're making money. So take some money. Oh, and they have a building across the road that could have a warming center, no problem.
Yeah,
no problem. It's a huge office. It's huge downstairs. Huge.
Thank you. Thank you. Are there other members of the public who would like to speak today? Mr. Anderson?
Okay, I lost track now. Where I am. I'm sorry, I apologize. I got mixed up. We seemed to get questions when we were dealing with the temporary use permit. But now that you have decided not to make a decision and that it's going to be a report, I can ask some questions on it. I think I got that right. And just very quickly, there's about 5-6 parties that are directly involved with this whole issue. And I don't really support saying, okay, for example, the Salvation Army do so wonderful things and I support them 100%. But we're almost talking like we're not going to get them, they're not going to be part of the solutions. Everyone else will have to come up with some idea. They're going to stay at least for the next 3 years because we've got no place to put them. Now, I guess this is a question in what do you think about the fact of City Council's contribution to this whole issue? We've got the temporary housing there, which was a step in the right direction, but it certainly wasn't a long term. We have the needle exchange, and I've talked to a couple of years ago to the people down there, and I was really wondering how much benefit they were doing. Everything is a benefit, but to what extent? The Racquetball Club, who's been, it's an eyesore for years, and I've brought that up, as I said, 2 occasions before, and now we're talking that one solution that wasn't said that would be, is to renew that. We can't just keep renewing permits until they decide to go through with it. So direct action needs to be taken, whatever that is, another problem. And the apartment, and I wish we had asked for a few years ago we got them to make changes there. We stopped too soon there. It was still an eyesore after they finished those changes. But all those are parties to this agreement. They all have to come to an understanding that they're all part of the resolution. They're all contributing to the problem, and they all are part. They have to start looking at what they may have to do 3 years from now, and we're avoiding that. We're pushing it back and pushing it back. It comes down to a very simple thing, and we don't want to deal with it: location, location, location. And a number of the councillors have mentioned that. And that's what it comes down to. There's no resolve to this until people decide that some changes have to be made, and location is one of them. And a few councillors have different ways said that. End of that for the time being. Back to my question period. Racquetball club, I'm glad Councillor Saunders brought that up because it has been an eyesore for me for a number of years. The work was ceased, it was expired, and it was renewed. Or no, I don't believe it was renewed. It doesn't matter, but it is now expired, I understand. And we go back to, and the other issue that's going to come and hit us on the face is the Kingsway Hotel. I'm going to request, and I've said this before, I haven't done it, a copy of the engineer's report to see what the status is of that. The reason I bring it up, and I'd like your input, it is a question in the form of explaining what the question is what's going to happen? That building is for sale, so is the racquetball club. I believe it's still for sale. What happens when a new owner? Do we just start renewing all the permits again? Or are we resolving this prior to the buildings being sold? So it's all these things that aren't being completed. Issues that we're avoiding making decisions. They're not easy decisions. So last thing, tying this together, is this whole policy we have, I believe it's a policy, of complaint-driven issues. We've got to do something. I'm asking you why you can't, do you really believe that a city council can decide what policies that they established? They're established for a reason, because there's a problem that has to be enforced. But you can pick and choose what policy you're going to enforce and which one you will leave unless someone complains. I don't like my neighbor. Okay, I'm going to make a complaint.
Mr. Anderson, it's just a number of the items you're talking about are not on our agenda. So I really can't provide any response to them because
you brought up, just fair enough question. You brought up complaint-driven issues. That was brought up in a conversation at this meeting. That's why I copied it down here.
Not complaint-driven. We brought up nuisance abatement. Oh, okay, I thought you were referencing the temporary use permit and not enforcing.
The actual word that was referring, I can't reflect back on it, Madam Mayor, but it was complaint-driven issues, and that's why I copied it down here. Yes, as long as we keep having this complaint-driven issues, I'll make it short, is that we're not resolving anything. The public, if we create, maybe we need to review our policies and get rid of some of them, and then, but we'll pick and choose which one we'll enforce. Is not working either.
Yeah,
we have to make hard decisions.
I'll just answer that for you.
Aren't being made all around.
I think we make a lot of hard decisions.
Well, you do.
A lot of hard decisions.
Yeah, of course you do.
I will just say that, while staff may occasionally focus on complaints, as they of course have to be complaint-driven in that sense, council brings forward items and proactively asks staff to address those items. So while our staff need to respond to complaints, that's the nature of a bylaw department, for instance, and of course they're going to be complaint-driven. We as a council, and I would say at a staff level as well, are also out there noticing issues, bringing them forward in this meeting as well as in other ways, and proactively looking to address them. So I hear your point. Complaint-driven is not the right approach, and we try very hard to not be solely complaint-driven. But complaint-driven is always going to be a part of it, because as a local government, we have to be responsive when people bring us complaints. We try to be. we often get criticized for not hearing the complaints at the same time, say that we shouldn't be complaint-driven. So, it's all a balance, but I hear your point, and we are certainly not trying to be a complaint-driven government. We are trying to be proactive with a plan. And I would say that we have been in a significant amount of areas.
Well, and, I would just quickly disagree, because I could give you examples where two neighbors or three neighbors down the road, and there's one restaurant used to be up the road a little bit, and they were told to make some changes regarding how they park their cars, and the same violations happened in the three houses down from them, and they had buses, one had a bus parked in the city property. Anyway, enough of that. I forgot, my question was before, the temporary housing, the needle exchange, all that, that was the city's decision. Correct me what you will are wrong.
No, it
why
wasn't.
Why did we allow all these places to be established on that stretch of road on 3rd Avenue?
Yeah, so we didn't. The overdose prevention site was put in without any decision from council.
Okay.
Many services are where they are. I mean, the Bread of Life has been where it is for how many years?
No, I'm talking about the other
Decades.
ones, though.
So, understand the point you're making, but there was no intentional decision from council to cluster everything together.
Because that's what has happened, and now all these people are parties to this problem, including the city, because you had input into this anyway. Anyway, I won't belabor it. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Would any other members of the public like to ask a question? Okay, would somebody like to move adjournment? Moved by Councillor Mealy, seconded by Councillor Dame. On the motion, all in favor? Carried, none opposed, meeting adjourned.